Okay, there you go.
All right. I'd like to call the September 8th, 2022 Fire Protection Board meeting to order. I'd like to just first order of business, have a moment of silence for former board member Bob Hollis. I'm sure everybody's aware he passed away last month. Bob was on Bob served on the board with Tony and myself for probably 22 years, 23 years, so a long time member. Just a moment of silence, please. Okay, and just Bob always worked hard for the industry. Bob was, very interested in promoting fire protection. So it's a loss to the fire protection community. I'm sorry, Tony.
I went to the church service. It was a very nice service.
I went to the wake. The wake was very big turnout.
Yeah, I couldn't make the wake, but the church had a very nice service and very moving out in Stonington.
Yeah. Well, it was a tribute to. I mean, like I say, I probably waited well over an hour in line. And he was well liked. I mean, he
certainly was
in his community. Not only in the fire protection community, but the Lord's Point where he lived. So
yeah,
hard worker, be missed. All right, minutes of the previous meeting, June 2nd.
Make motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Who was that again?
I make a motion to approve.
The minutes.
Yeah.
Right, no, was it Keith, was it Tony that made the motion to approve?
Keith and Tony.
Keith and
Okay.
Tony.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Very quick.
Unlike other board, I've attended the plumbing board. Unlike the plumbing board, I guess we got down to business and we just
That's all right.
right along.
That's right.
Enough said, Dave.
Yeah. No discussion. All in favor accepting the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes accepted. Comments and concerns, any persons present today? Hearing none, we'll move on to the DCP investigation complete status report. There was a report forwarded to all the board members by Karen. Thank you. And I guess Janita's online here and she'd like to comment.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for recognizing me. Hello to Karen and all the other board members. What you have is the occupational enforcement complaint status report from investigations for the 2-month period, May 1st of 2022 to June 30th of 2022. Because of where your meeting fell the last time, it wasn't a 2-month period. So that's why you're getting that one now as well.
So they're all closed. I see there was a 3,000 AVC paid.
Yes, sir.
Was that 2 or just 1 or was that duplicate?
There was some confusion and the respondent thought that he could make his own, I'm only going to send you $1,000 and that's what he thought he should only pay. And we had to have a Zoom meeting with him and explain that no, the assurance of voluntary compliance forfeiture was $3,000 and he owed the state the other $2,000. So it recorded it twice because it was 2 payments.
Okay, I see the 1,000 and 2,000, but there's no explanation. So thank you for that explanation.
No. And for the first one, it was a consumer complaint against a home improvement contracting company. And unfortunately, the complaint center they're not tradespeople. They don't understand the difference between fire protection, your fire alarm electrical low voltage system and a fire sprinkler pipe system, which are two separate entities. So it was not a fire sprinkler complaint at all.
Okay.
And the electrical low voltage contractor was in fact properly licensed, and it was a civil matter and a monetary matter between the consumer and the Wakefield Construction Company, home improvement, contracting money, and they're builders, and as long as they're not touching my occupational stuff, I'm good.
And item 4, when it was closed there, is that one of the issues, instances where anonymous, you couldn't follow up on it? I know you've talked about it in the past.
Yes, when it's an anonymous complaint, it makes it hard for us because we have nobody to go back to and say, help me, what did you see this guy or his employees do on what job site? Please, 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 please help, because if there's an active site, and I will assign it to the inspectors as a twofold thing. It's a site inspection, go there, go see what's going on, and it's a complaint investigation. So if you go to the site and there's nothing going on, there's no violation occurring on the day that we're there, then the respondent gets a letter and a copy of the complaint, and we say, hey, this is what we got, this is what you need to do, and we don't, unfortunately, they will deny it unless we have other documents we've been able to get either through the website, or we look at their applications and stuff. And we will also try to get information from the GC, and we will try very hard to get them to self-incriminate, in which case then we would try to do an assurance of voluntary compliance. Or if we find out that no, they're totally wrong, and we will then do a report that'll go to legal and wait for it to get to a board.
Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that report.
No, and the other thing was I had notified Karen and Ms. Birdsong that for this current 2-month timeframe, July 1st of 2022 through August 31st of 2022, there were no new fire protection complaints submitted, but at the same time, there were no files closed either. So anything that we've been investigating that we're still working on, they're still actively being investigated.
That was probably my next question, not to put you on the spot, but seeing how we're into, a week into September, and this report was 2 months old, but you explained it. Thank you.
No, and it's not just your board, it's the way the meetings fall for some of the boards. It falls in the middle, and it's like, well, I haven't done a new report yet. And then by the time you're having your next meeting, I've already run another 2-month report. So I try to make sure the boards have all the information for those 4 months. I try to make sure the boards have all that information.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Moving right along into old business. Old business, we have topic that's been popping up for well over a year, the backflow prevention device issue. Myself and Wayne attended the plumbing board meeting. I think that was back in July. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say, I left the meeting very disheartened, and whatever, unhappy. I'm trying to choose my words carefully because if I use my words, I would, they'd have to bleep them out. But anyways, the plumbing board, it was explained to them that we're only looking to install the backflows on the fire line. It seemed like we received a great deal of opposition from the plumbing board members that are, affiliated with local 777, which I was greatly surprised. So I guess it's back in the hands of, the department that, pursue it. However, there was various suggestions made, contact building, state building officials, state fire marshal, go that route. But the majority of the plumbing board that was present was opposed to sprinkler fitters installing a backflow on a fire protection line. I don't know, you have anything to add to that, Wayne?
Yeah, their big complaint was that they were sitting, every fire main goes back to a domestic line, and then there's potable water and our lines can contaminate it, and they should put the backflow on the system. And we brought up a bunch of different situations, how it could affect the design on the system. I came up with and said basically their contractors don't hold the proper licenses, insurance and things to work on a fire sprinkler system, and they just don't want us doing our own work, is the way I took it. That's it.
Hey, question.
Go ahead, Keith.
You said when you guys were at the meeting, that Chuck said to contact the State Codes and Standards Committee. And being a member, I'm curious what his intent was, or how would the State Codes and Standards Committee have anything to say about?
Keith, personally, I think it's a shuffle off to Buffalo to,
No, I get it.
no,
I'm
but I
just
mean,
curious.
I hate getting the bums rush, but there was a sympathetic ear on the plumbing board, and unfortunately, was a public member and only person. Like I say, Chuck and I believe it was 3 of the 777 gang there were adamantly opposed to it. They attest to the fact that the sanctity of the public, the drinking water is on the plumber, where it's, the sprinkler fitter has no concern or whatever for it. But like I say, it's just, yeah, I don't want to say.
Is that technically a domestic line? No, that's a fire line, right?
Keith, there's, it's like for years I've told people, you drive down the street, you see the hydrants. Those hydrants, they're on the same water main that you're drinking out of. There's not a fire line out in the street, and there's not a domestic water line out in the street. It's
Right.
all the same. So I mean, it's like they're arguing, barking up the wrong tree, I think, because like I say, it's I mean, you could say the fire hydrant needs a backflow on it, because when the pumper hooks onto it, if he's drafting or whatever, he could contaminate the, I mean, there's several scenarios, but I mean, all we were looking for was just the agreement. I mean, like I said, this has been going on well over a year. I've attended their boards, discussed it with them, and like I say, it's irritating because I mean, the fire board bent over backwards with these multi-purpose systems to create a new license category for a system that's not, that greatly in use. And this is not that we look at a quid pro quo, but I mean, like I say, just some consideration to say, yeah, if it's a backflow that's on the fire line, like I say, usually if it tees off or it's a separate line, why would you have somebody come in and you know, that's not licensed to put that backflow in on, you know, because basically now this is something that Janita would have to go out and, you know, enforce, because now they're working on something that they're not licensed on. So it's a can of worms, and it could have been very simple by them just saying, yeah, okay, it's, you know, I don't know where this got, you know, Richard Hurlbert dug this out of his file cabinet. It was, you know, just a parting, you know, shot to, you know, the fire protection board before he left or whatever. But like I say, it's not, doesn't make sense.
So is this something that DCP cannot make a determination whose work it is? It has to be on the two boards to make that determination?
The way it was left was it's got to go to the state legislature for a change, and it's got to go, you know, I mean, it's like, this is the trouble with Zoom meetings. I mean, I'd like to, you know, sit down. I mean, it's tough to get together. I don't know all the ins and outs on how to pursue this. I mean, I would have hoped there would have been some support from DCP itself. I'm not, you know, I'm not singling out Karen. I'm not saying Karen, you know, but I mean, you know, somebody from the department that's more versed in this, whether it's Leslie O'Brien or whoever. I mean, you know, there's names that pop out there, you know, that, you know, Jerry Padula's got to look at it or whatever. But I mean, I don't know who to contact.
So is this something that maybe the water authorities would have a vested interest in who installs these?
Possibly, yes.
Well, part of the problem is, you know, under the fire protection license, it says our license covers all components of the sprinkler system. Well, the backflow is a component of our system. The calcs are done with it. And so now you have a plumber who's installing sprinkler work without a license, like Dave said.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And again, like you know, was pointed out to them, the liability, you know, people don't realize fire protection contractor pays a heck of a lot in liability insurance as compared to a plumber. And if he's out there installing this, you know, something malfunctions, now who's the onus go on? You know, if something happens to that backflow where the system malfunctions, he should be held liable and have the insurance, you know, accordingly. So I guess I've been on this board 25 years, and I've been told that the commissioner and all these people read the minutes. You know, hopefully they're reading the minutes, because like I say, you know, some of this, you know, Karen, hopefully you could put in, you know, some of this, the board's sentiments on, you know, how we feel about this, how to, you know, the reception that was received by the fire protection board, by the plumbing board, and their unwillingness to cooperate, and again, the potential liabilities out there. You know, like I say, as far as insurance and again, licensing.
Well, we also know if the specs say you need to have a double check in, or, you know, another device, it's calced out for the furthest point to get enough water pressure. A plumber's not going to know. He might say, hey, I could get this one cheaper. I'm going to throw this in. And now, you know, you're compromising all these systems out there.
But Wayne, technically, do you need a backflow if you don't have an FDC? So technically, right, the only time you need a backflow is if you have an FDC, or is that just jurisdictionally different in places?
Well, that would logically, Keith, I'm not speaking for Wayne, but logically, you know, back in late 80s, early 90s, there was back when the big backflow revolution, we're going through it I work for a company, that's all we were doing. We were doing, 2 backflows a day, retrofitting them into systems because, and memory serves me correctly, back then it was, you needed a backflow if you're within 1,500 feet of a non-potable water supply, like a pond or a river or a lake or whatever, where the potential for contamination would exist. And like I say, you wouldn't think you would need a backflow prevent unless there was chemicals in the system, Keith. Like some type of glycol or
I mean, that's what I get from RWA down here is that they require a backflow if you have a fire department connection.
right. Or if there's chemicals. That's
Right, or chemicals, right.
The only systems I've never put a backflow on is like when they're using a tank and that's your only water source.
Yeah,
Otherwise, every system I've ever installed had a backflow, even when there isn't chemicals in the system. It's common now, they go in.
yeah, I mean, every new system I've done always has a backflow. I have some systems that I retrofitted an FTC on that didn't have a backflow. And then they came in and said, no, you have to have a backflow if you're putting a fire department, which makes sense why it would be an F1 license to put the backflow on. Because you're going from the FTC to the backflow to the system, which is fire line. To me, I mean, doesn't make much sense why the plumber would come in and do the backflow. I don't know.
Well, one of the idiotic statements that was brought up by a member of the plumbing board was if the sprinkler fitter puts the backflow in wrong. I mean, there's 2 ways to put it in, the right way, the wrong way. You put it in the wrong way, you get no water.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's like, it's like I say, they're grasping at straws, but like I say, they don't want to relinquish.
Just a point, would it be smart to contact a legislator, somebody that in the legislature, either a state senator or a state representative? They could probably get the ball rolling. Somebody that
Does anybody know one? I'm not,
I don't know why would we need to go that way. I mean, if the
I mean, you need, sometimes, Keith, if it doesn't work at the bottom, you can go to the top.
No, I understand that. I mean, it's like doing home fire sprinklers, right? We went the same route and we know where that ended up.
Yeah.
But if the license if it already says what you're entitled to do, where the work comes from, then
Right.
why are we even messing with it? Just make a complaint every time the plumber puts a backflow in and let DCP do their investigation.
We could do it that way through the fire marshals and building officials.
I mean, it doesn't make any.
Yeah, maybe a meeting of fire marshals and building officials and, explain to them the dilemma, what's going on. That they're allowing people that may not be qualified to install.
Janine, are you still with us?
Yes, Mr.
She's
Chairman,
there.
I am.
Who's there?
Senior Inspector Hamel, I got a question. I don't know if you're monitoring the discussion here, but seeing as how the backflow is a component of the fire protection system, and the fire protection license covers all components of the fire protection system. Plumber installs the backflow and he doesn't have an F license. Is that a chargeable offense?
Well, Mr. Chairman, based on the fact that this has been going back and forth with our legislative director, Leslie O'Brien, the fire board and the plumbing board, and it's still going back and forth. I don't have a solid answer for you, sir.
Okay,
I
wasn't trying to put you on the spot.
No, I understand that. And I have attended and listened to when you and Wayne, unfortunately, I got a call in the middle of it and I had to answer one of my inspectors a question, I didn't get to listen to all of the special plumbing board, or when you went to the plumbing board and you gentlemen were discussing the backflow prevention devices, plumbers versus fire protection. I myself agree with Fire Marshal Flood. I don't know what the state fire marshal, what Bill Abbott and the new young lady state building official can do, because it's a licensing question. It's
Exactly.
not a code question. And the state building official's office has always said permitting and code is their responsibility, and licensing was consumer protection's
Right.
responsibility. However, I think former Fire Marshal Tony Moscato, Tony, you did retire, right?
I did.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I just
Almost,
making
it's almost 9 years.
All right. As the board member, former Fire Marshal Tony Moscato said about getting a legislator or a senator. Because if I remember correctly at one meeting, I don't know how far back it was, Legislative Director O'Brien stated, and I don't know if it was at a fire board meeting or it was at a plumbing board meeting where you were also in attendance, sir, Mr. Chairman, but talking to a legislator might be of some help, because it sounds like they're looking for you to get it put legislatively into the definition of the work, that it will include the backflow prevention on the fire mains. And to get that in the statute and the definition changed, you would need a legislator to do that and get it legislatively done.
Thank you.
You know,
All right.
the
Go
only
ahead.
other thing, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
mention it at your next Commissioner MOU meeting.
yeah,
That you're looking for guidance and assistance. I unfortunately, the legislative piece and the crafting of the regulations and the statutes, while we put in, you know, ideas, we, myself and my staff don't have anything to do with that.
right. All right. Anything further from anybody? I appreciate all the input. And like I say, it's a topic that's been going on for, I don't know, I'd say at least a year and a half, maybe more. So. Moving on, new business, application review working group. Might have misplayed. I don't think there was any applications reviewed, but there was a meeting that was held between, I guess, Paula Annan was holding meetings with different boards. She had and we ended up having a conference call. We couldn't, I don't know, for some reason they wanted to do Teams. Bob Barrio from the heating board and myself were scheduled to meet with her. Neither of us could get on the team. She ended up with a conference call, but she provided, some information, and the basic, she's got I'm going to read, summarize because it's two pages here, but the procedure for handling decisions from the working group. Number one, working group votes unanimously to approve the application. That's first, if that goes through. Number two, the working group votes 2-1 to approve an application. Same thing, it moves on. 3, the working group votes unanimously to deny an application. And, to explain this, Karen sends an email out to the applicant telling they were denied. The working group cannot recommend approval, but the application will be reviewed by the full board. This is not a hearing or an appeal. This is an initial license consideration by the board. If the board approves the application, the applicant will be permitted to take the exam. If the board denies the application, the board proposed decision is drafted by Attorney Padula for board chair signature, then submitted to the commissioner for final approval. Item 3, if the applicant is agreed by the decision to deny, the applicant may appeal to the Superior Court. And moving on, it goes, the working group votes 2-1 to deny an application, and DCP voted to deny. You follow the same steps I just read. If the working group votes 2-1 to deny the applicant and DCP votes in favor, Karen sends no communication to the applicant until the commissioner has a chance to review. So apparently, I'm interjecting this, DCP holds more weight than the board. But item B under that category, if the legal has serious antitrust concerns, legal sends a memo to the commissioner detailing the concerns and determines next steps, which would include a discussion with the board chair to discuss options. And item C, legal to inform Karen how to proceed with the processing the application. If the working group is split 1-1 based on a recusal and DCP votes to deny, we go back to item 3, which goes through the 3 steps. Then it's got, if the working group is split 1-1 and DCP votes to go to item 5, where the commissioner, I guess, reviews it. For the 2 cases of going before the fire pit, this is an item here, a note, going before the fire protection board for a continuation of the application review. The application reviewed is the procedure. And that this, I believe, is Savino and Israel, if you recall those. DCP will schedule a special board meeting for the continuation of the application review. Item 2, the applicant will be provided notice of the date and time of meeting. Scratch, that wasn't hearing, a meeting. 3, if the board denies the application, the board's proposed decision is drafted by Attorney Padula for the board chair signature, then submitted to the commissioner for final approval. Item 4, if the applicant is agreed by the final decision to deny, then the applicant may appeal to the department for formal hearing. Only in these 2 cases will there be an in-house hearing appeal. The new process going forward will be in section 3. The reason we're allowing in-house appeal is that when the working group initially denied the application, it was a denial by the department. At that time, the department offered them an opportunity to appeal the denial before the board. The hearing was not conducted properly under the Uniform Administrative Procedure Act because the board member who voted to deny the application did not recuse himself from the board hearing. It was DCP's fault in not reminding the board member to recuse himself. So this is the fix. The appeal hearing will be conducted by a DCP hearing officer. Any of the working group members who voted to deny the application may be called as witnesses by the department to testify about the reasons for the denial. Now, I think they're spitballing here when they come up with all these rules after the fact. If we sit on a panel, DCP, DOL, and somebody from the board, happens to be most of the time was myself. Wayne had filled in for me last month. I was unavailable. I don't understand how if you're party to this preliminary discussion, hearing, whatever you want to call it, why you would have to recuse yourself as a board member when it goes before the full board. And then have the option of being called as a witness. I mean, I don't agree with that. Like I say, after receiving this and digesting it, I mean, it's, you know, something that has to be discussed with Paulette. I guess this is her draft, or she drafted this, so. Like I say, I don't know what the board's feeling is, but I mean, it gets more complicated rather than just looking at an individual's qualifications and, you know, what their credentials are. I mean, we're going through this whole thing, and I did say, I said, it's almost like we become too business friendly when we're just trying to, you know, we're not checking to make sure we have the most qualified candidate sitting for the test. You know, just, you know, I don't want to use the word reciprocity, but just because somebody has a license in another state, that's the green light to go and take the test, and no researching of the credentials. I know, you know, so like I say, I'm upset the fact that I was supposed to recuse myself. I mean, who would ever assume that? But somebody came up with this rule, so I'm just making that the board aware of that. So if anybody gets assigned that task of sitting on that working group and it doesn't go well, or it doesn't, you know, it doesn't, not approved, and it goes back, you according to the state of Connecticut DCP, you would have to recuse yourself. I mean, I even brought up at the thing, I says, I like the old days when we had 9 board members and you had 9 pairs of eyes looking at an application, and hopefully things didn't fall through the cracks. You're sitting there with you know, a panel of a member of the DOL, a member of DCP, and a board member, and you're looking at an application. I mean, there was an incident, you know, a while back where I had voted no, and the DCP DOL voted yes, and as a board member, I was overruled. I mean, that would, you know, to me, that, you know, they keep saying, you know, we're the subject matter experts. Well, when are they going to take, you know, take our advice? So that's all I have. Say again?
It's like they're, you know, they want to be business friendly, but they're forgetting about life safety. I mean, it's not only the people that work in these buildings every day, but how about the firefighters that think they're going into a properly sprinkled building to fight a fire, and just because they want to go ahead and give a license to get more revenue in the state. That's my opinion. It's just bizarre.
Well, you know, I use the word business friend, you know, I mean, you know, it's, you know, revenue or whatever. It's, it's unfortunate, but that's what it's come down to. You know, that, you know, we can get revenue from the license and everything, and let's give out more licenses, but let's not check the qualifications. It's a, you know, that's what the board, I maintain, we tried to do, you know, because just the one of the individuals from New York, I mean, you know, he had a New York license. Oh, I look at it quickly. I made some calls. New York State does not have a license. It's New York City. It's a city license. You know, they have maybe county licenses or whatever. There's no statewide license. So, I mean, it's like each jurisdiction could have different qualifications to test the aptitude and ability of the applicant. And I mean, I used the joke many times, you know, our test is pretty stringent. I don't want the test to be which hand's got the marble in it. You know, it's you know, I want to make sure that individual has done his 8,000 hours of on-the-job training and his 576 hours of related instruction, and not just, you know, attended a seminar, whether it's, you know, an F4 category or F3 category, because he attended a kiddie class, you know, or Energen or whoever's manufacturing the product. They have a 1 or 2 day seminar. And I mean, years ago, Tony can remember, the tree 4 category, we would accept those. Till we found out one day that there was a criteria over at the DOL, and you know, it was my good friend Bob Hollis made that statement that day. We're gonna draw the line in the sand this day forward. People will have completed an apprenticeship in the F3, you know, the limited license category. So anyhow. Anything further? Any correspondence? None? No? Comments?
You mentioned Richard Herbert retired?
That's the rumor.
He officially retired. He's in, a lot of employees that have retired are able to come back for 120-day like retiree status type of thing, where they're not officially employed, but they're in retiree status and they can do their hours, you know, different ways. So I'm not sure in what capacity he's still, you know, he's
Oh.
still around, but
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Oh,
yeah.
oh, good for him.
How many hours has he clocked so far? Is he still on the, is he,
I
it
don't
seems
know.
like he's been around and retired for,
Yeah, well, I mean, it was officially, his retirement, I think, was officially December 31st. So I don't
okay.
know. I'm not keeping track of his hours.
no, I'm not, wasn't.
Surprised he's not here at the meeting.
I know. Yeah,
That would be billable hours.
right.
So. Anything further?
No.
Go ahead, Tony. You're gonna say something?
No.
Oh. Well, hearing nothing else, I thank everybody for attending, and Karen and Senior Inspector Hamel, and I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Fire Protection Board meeting is adjourned at 9:42 a.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Stay